Quazi here. The title of today's video is Stop Being So Masculine. And I want to begin this with a quote taken from the teachings of one of the most powerful sages to have ever existed, Hermes Trismegistus. The teaching says, "The part of the masculine principle seems to be that of directing a certain inherent energy toward the feminine principle, and thus starting into activity the creative processes. But the feminine principle is the one doing the active creative work, and this is so on all planes." Kybalion. See, we live in a world where hustle, grind, and massive action is worshipped. Society continually conditions us to be in our heads and not in our hearts, to stay in our masculine energy. This affects both men and women negatively. For men, it is seen as a great weakness to cry, to show any emotion, and there is this great importance to be a man and to not be a pussy. For women, there is this importance of needing to be hyper-empowered, on competing against the man and forcing herself to be loud so that she can stand out in a man's world. Hustling and grinding, it's making her stressed out, and it's taking her further and further away from her true power. I want you to think about this. Anytime you've actually received something in your life that was considered a blessing, it wasn't because you hustled and grinded for it. That happened way before the fact. And I'm not saying that wasn't necessary, it was, but it wasn't the main thing that actually allowed you to receive it. The receiving of the blessing happened when you were least expecting it, when it didn't matter, when you were open to receiving. This openness is feminine energy. See, in my life, when I learned how to finally get out of my head and get into my heart, when I finally learned to truly surrender to the flow of life and stop insisting on my way and surrender to God's way, that's when everything that I ever wanted came to life. See, I was able to quit my soul-sucking corporate job. I was able to start my own business and actually became a millionaire by the age of 23, which is unheard of. I couldn't have dreamt of that in my wildest dreams. I met the love of my life. I got married to her and had the most wonderful baby boy. Everything happened because I learned how to balance out my masculine energy by stepping more into the feminine. So guys, in today's video, I'm going to share with you why stepping into the feminine energy is the key to manifesting everything that you want, and the key to actually doing it, how to step into your feminine energy. So with that, let's get started. So to begin with, I want to start by sharing the 3 levels of reality creation with you. At the lowest level, there is a focus on having. This is where you simply focus on taking something, on getting something. This having energy is focused on apathy. There's an energy of apathy. There's an energy of victimhood. When you are stuck in this having energy, you simply throw up your arms and say, this is all I have. This is what I was given. This is my lot in life. I can't control it. I wish I could have that. I wish I could have something else. However, that something else was never meant for me. A level above that is the doing paradigm. In the doing paradigm, there is more energy available. So in the doing paradigm, now we are at the level of anger. There is pride. And there is this sense of, let's go out, let's take massive action, let's get it done, okay? This go-getter attitude. So there is no doubting it, there is more energy available in doing than in having. In having, you are a victim. In doing, you are the perpetrator. But this doing paradigm too is still limited. And 99% of society right now is stuck in this doing paradigm because society conditions us to be in doing, to always fight, to earn our place under the sun, right? So the highest paradigm of existence is the being paradigm. And in the being paradigm, we are more focused on joy, peace, love, acceptance. Accept, joy, peace, and love. Now, there is an important question that arises here. It's how do we step into being, right? Now we know like being paradigm is the highest paradigm of all. The question is, what is it? How do we step into it? Before I get to that, there's an important distinction we have to understand. The having is an outcome. It's the grossest form that we can see. It comes from doing, right? Doing is actions that we take that also we can see, which comes from being. Being is that state of being that we're in. Now, to give you an example, a lot of people, they take action from the state of being of lack. What do you think happens when I take action from the state of being of lack? If I'm in a job that I hate, that I want to quit, and I make the intention to become a business owner or to find a different job or to find a way to earn income that doesn't require me to work for the man, right? However, in my being state, I'm still stuck in the state of scarcity. I'm still stuck in, I hate this job, I'm the kind of person who only works a job, okay? That is the identity that I'm embodying. I can't outwork my identity. I can only work within the confines of my beinghood, okay? So who I perceive myself to be, my self-image, I can only do within the confines of that beingness, okay? So the doing effectively is masculine. This is masculine energy. The being is actually more feminine energy, right? So when we're in states of acceptance, joy, peace, and love, our creativity is allowed to flower, okay? When we're in doingness, we are more taking action, hustling, and grinding. It's more in the head. It's a heady place to be in. Now, the formula for reality creation is we need both. We need both being and doing. The fact that you are doing right now is great. There's just a little tweak that we need, which is we need to be intentional about our doing. Most people are unconsciously doing, not consciously doing, meaning they haven't chosen the place that this doing is coming from. And because of that, they're not able to move forward towards the life that they want to experience. Okay, so for example, we have clients who desperately want to quit their jobs. They're very, very unfulfilled. And then they try different business opportunities, but nothing works because they haven't become the business owner. They haven't become the entrepreneur. They haven't become the trader, right? They haven't become who they need to be to experience what they want. They are stuck in that masculine energy, that they're stuck in their heads of just do, take action, take action, take action. But no matter how much action they take, there is always this self-sabotage, an invisible ceiling. Why does this happen? Because they've set their internal limits to be that of, I will always return to the job no matter what I do, right? We question all of the beliefs that we hold except the ones that we hold to be true very, very dearly. Those we will never question, and those are the ones that ultimately dictate your fate, okay? So the one thing you have to remember is nothing will change, no amount of doing will work unless you've shifted, you've eased into the beinghood, the beingness of that person that actually gets what you want. Because once you step into that beingness, you actually don't even have to focus that much on doing. The doing will simply happen as a byproduct of it, okay? So here's the key that I want you to understand from all of this. What beingness does, the correct beingness, is we have different possible sectors of realities that can be manifested. So if we look at the space of realities, let's say this is my current reality. These three are potential realities that can be manifested. When I embody the correct state of being, the state of being in which I am a wealthy entrepreneur, or I'm a wealthy business owner, or a very successful trader making profits, and I've escaped that soul-sucking job. Let's say that is this desired reality, right? Now, within the desired reality, there is a neutral reality where I stay stuck here. And there is an undesired reality, right? So this is positive, this is neutral, and this is negative. Let's just say this is 0, right? So if we have three possible combinations of outcomes that can be manifested, subjectively, one's positive, one's negative, and one's neutral. When I embody the right state of being, my thought energy, the frequency that I'm resonating at, will be at this positive. Okay? So now this lifeline becomes a potential. Otherwise, it's not. For most people, they stay stuck in this neutral state of staying stuck in their current situation. In rare circumstances, they shift to a negative lifeline where they embody a version of themselves that is super, super negative and different from who they used to be. And this typically happens when accumulated trauma and the pressure within their psyche just gets so strong over time. And typically in like their 40s, 50s, and 60s, people start to see that their lives start to deteriorate because the pressure of what they've accumulated, it all of a sudden, it begins to live a life of its own. This is what Carl Jung calls the shadow self. So when we embody the desired state, we step into the feminine and we embody that version of ourselves that is successful in the endeavor that we want to move towards. Whether you want to be a successful artist, musician, you want to be a creator, you want to create your own content, you want to change your life, you want to do something different from what you've been doing. You embody the desired state, now that becomes a potential. Your thought energy resonates with that lifeline. Now, the movement along the lifeline, what causes that? Doing. Taking action actually helps you move towards that. But that action, again, still has to be balanced with surrender. And so the ancient yogis talked about vairagya and abhyasa, the balance between effort and surrender. All the effort that you take, it needs to be balanced with surrender. Okay, so that's how you move along the lifeline towards the actual end point. There is an end point where your manifestation comes to life. And that end point is reached through what? The balancing of action and non-action. Okay, so remember when I was introducing this video, I was talking about how when we receive things, how it doesn't make sense that whenever it is we give up, we receive it after years and years of severe effort and trying. Why does that happen? Because there is that balance of effort and surrender. You need to place effort, you need to focus, and then you need to defocus. Every single successful client I've worked with, they have this quality where they have completely focused and then they've just completely forgotten about it. And as soon as they've forgotten, a few months later, a few years later, all of a sudden they look back at what they wanted and the life has manifested. And they're in shock, right? It's only when we look back we realize all of the progress that we've made. Okay? So the key I want you to take away is the embodiment, that being state of the ideal version of you, it creates potential. It creates a potential for you to shift. Okay? And when that potential for you to shift becomes manifest, now it's just movement along lifelines. What the doingness does is it arranges current reality, the materials in this current reality. It can't move you any further than your current reality, okay? So you put one foot in front of the other, you uncover new, uncharted, unknown terrain, and then you balance it with surrender, which makes you receive more instructions from the divine, from God. And then you take even more steps, and then you surrender even more. So this is how the play of the masculine and feminine happens, of effort and surrender happens, right? But if you keep taking massive action all the time and you just keep doing, and you keep stressing yourself out, then you're going to be stuck. You're never going to receive any divine instruction. That's why your muscles grow when you're resting. That's why you receive these ideas in deep meditation or when you're taking a shower or when you're going for a walk. There has to be a continual balancing of the effort that you're taking with rest periods. So now let's talk about the 4 main keys I want you to take away from this so you can step more into being mode and get out of that masculine just doing mode that's stressing you out, that's not really making any progress, okay? So key number 1 is when you step into pure being, just realize that there is a deep acceptance of present moment. So we can reverse engineer that to begin with deep acceptance of what is, okay? Why is this important? Why is this deep acceptance important? Because think about it this way. Whenever you make an intention to move to a different shift to a different lifeline, what happens is the flow of life shifts. Now, you don't know how God is going to deliver you to this goal. You don't know how it's going to happen. Because our ego minds can't conceive of how this is going to happen, it immediately arms itself. It becomes guarded. It becomes closed off. And when you become closed off, you're resisting the flow of life, the current, okay? It is futile to fight where God is taking you. All you can do is choose where you want to go, not control how you get there, okay? So you simply place the order and you accept every single bump on the way as par for the course. That's it. So there has to be a deep acceptance. And the deeper your acceptance is, the faster you will move. The more you resist, the slower you will move. You'll eventually get there, I promise you, you will. But it's just going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot slower. And it may be so slow that it may not even be in this lifetime, unfortunately. But you will keep reincarnating to come and experience that. But I promise you, if you simply let your guard down and anytime you notice an obstacle, something that didn't fit the mold of what you were expecting, surrender it to God. Say, my little mind didn't expect this. My ego mind didn't accept this, but I know, God, you have something greater planned for me. I know there is something greater planned for me. The moment your attitude shifts to that, guess what happens? Reality will reflect that. Oh, you believe that there is something greater? Well, here you go. Here is something greater that you believed, right? So your attitude is constantly being reflected into reality. So it always begins with deep acceptance. Acceptance is the first step to pure beingness of that ideal state. You can't get there from a place of resistance. You actually cannot get there by fighting your current self. You may look at your current self and be like, I'm so damaged and all of these bad things are happening and I have all of these bad habits. I don't like myself. Then you fight against yourself. Shift doesn't happen from a resistance of current self, contrary to popular belief. It happens from a deep acceptance of, hey, this is where I am. This is how I am. I'm already perfect the way that I am. It's a deep acceptance. However, I can always be better. However, this is who I would like to be in this next moment. You're choosing what you want in the next moment. You're not trying to change the current moment. That is the key distinction, okay? Changing the current moment is akin to resisting God's will, okay? So, deep acceptance of what is. The second part to this is conducting action dispassionately. So, acting dispassionately. Meaning you don't expect something from, you don't always expect fruit from your labor. Whenever you expect something to happen, typically that's what doesn't happen, right? It's because subconsciously you're resisting it. Subconsciously you're saying, oh man, if it doesn't happen, it would suck, so it better happen. I hope it happens. Please happen, right? So then it doesn't happen. But then the thing that you want comes to you in other ways. Like for example, I've made videos in the past that I thought would do really, really well and would get me a lot of clients that I want to work with, but they didn't. However, I would always fret and be like, oh my God, this was my last hope for this month. Like I was hoping this video, this advertising campaign would do really, really well, and it didn't. But then something else happens that I was least expecting, and then it gets me what I wanted. So it doesn't matter what your plans are. God will just laugh at your plans, right? That's just how it happens. So all you can do is just show up and act dispassionately. And I've noticed that the more dispassionately I acted, and I just put one foot in front of the other, I just showed up. I was just having this conversation with one of my one-on-one clients in our elite program. And, he's a startup founder. He's working on, getting to multi-million this year, acquiring 10 different locations. And what he's been struggling with is showing up consistently because he's so attached to how he feels, right? His feelings guide his actions instead of his actions guiding his feelings. What do I mean by that? There is inspired action when I wait to feel inspired and then I act, and then there is inspiring action where I take action that inspires me. I create my own state. Right? Instead of waiting for my state to be created, instead of waiting for inspiration to strike, I create it. And there's a great comic, Seinfeld. I think he's one of the first comics who's become a billionaire. What he did, his practice was writing every single day, writing jokes every single day, every single morning. First thing he did was write jokes for like decades. He would spend 1 hour, non-negotiable. He had two choices. He could either write jokes or he could sit there and do nothing. That's it. That's the kind of discipline he had. And even when I wrote my book, Life Mastery, that's what I did. For 3 straight months, I just sat there. I don't know if it was 3 months or 1 month. I just literally showed up for 2 hours every single morning and I just wrote. I didn't try to edit it. I didn't try to make it perfect. I just saw what came out. There's a great saying. It's called write drunk, edit sober. That's the thing that was going through my mind at the time. You can check out the book. It's on Amazon. It's called Life Mastery by Quazi, Johir. It's a short 50-page book. But that's how I did it. You know, anytime I make videos, that's how I show up. It's just like whatever comes out, I'll edit it afterwards. But this period of time, I'm committing to writing. Just writing out, planning this video out and see what comes out. Okay, see what's arising within consciousness today. And you'll notice that some days you're gonna have a good day, some days you're not. But you're just showing up dispassionately, and some days you just get into state by doing. The muse shows up, okay? So act dispassionately, whatever it is you've intended to do, the doing. Don't make it so romantic, like, you know, you've made the decision to start your business and you've got all these tasks for your business. Don't make it so dramatic. Just you've made the intention to become who you want to be. Now just act dispassionately, and that state of being will show up in your action, right? Because when your actions are neutral, there is space for that state to take over that action, okay? So the third part to this is ask yourself, if I had everything that I wanted, who would I be? If I had the trading success that I wanted, the business success that I wanted, you know, if my music was a success, if I experience all of the having, who would I be? So we begin by asking what I want to have and then go to doing immediately. Go to being immediately. So we go from having to pure being. If I had this, who would I be? And to give you an example of this, when I started this channel and I wanted to wake up in the mansion in LA next to the woman of my dreams and drive the red Ferrari, you know, I visualized that for a long time. Those are the things I wanted to have. I simply asked, who would I be if I had all those things? How would I feel on a day-to-day basis? If you were a millionaire, if you were a billionaire, how would you be? Okay, how would you be in this moment? Can you bring that state to this moment right now? Now, a lot of you have objections to this, being like, oh, you know, but I'm not that. Like, if I were a billionaire, I'd be on a yacht and I would be doing this. No, that's doing. What is that energy that you can bring into your current circumstances? Maybe you want to be a millionaire, you want to be a billionaire, whatever it is, you want to be fulfilled, you want the partner of your dreams. In your current circumstance of you slogging away at work, the work that you hate, how would you show up? What is that energy, that billionaire, millionaire energy? How would that person show up? What energy would they show up with? And you'll notice that opportunities will line up if you show up in that energy right now. If you bring your ideal state of being into this now, opportunities will show up that will shift you directly to that lifeline where you do become that millionaire. So, begin with having and then reverse engineer to doing. Begin with having and then reverse engineer to being. I always mix those up. Having to being. Ask, who would I be? Now, finally, whenever you're presented with a decision, this is what I want you to do. Ask, what would the ideal self do? Before you're presented with a fork in the road, what would the ideal self do? You're basically consulting your higher self, your inner guru, for guidance. If I were my higher self, what would I do? What would higher self do? Do you want to know what happens when you do this enough? When you have that fork in the road of one is leading you to one outcome, the other is leading you to the other outcome. Even if you were to pick the wrong choice, right? The failing lifeline. There's a successful lifeline and a failing lifeline. Even if you were to pick the wrong choice of the failing lifeline, but you came from the ideal state of being, that wrong decision would be turned into the right decision. There's a great book on this by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil. In it, he says, a weak plan executed with a definiteness of purpose will triumph over a strong plan executed with an indefiniteness of purpose. So this definiteness of purpose is how grounded you are in that ideal self. So you ask, what would the ideal self do? And then you'll know which answer to pick. And even if you were to pick the wrong one, it will triumph over that strong plan that was executed with an indefiniteness of purpose. Okay? These are the 4 keys that you need to step into your ideal self, to get more into being, to get out of your head, out of the masculine. And you're going to begin to see a lot of synchronicities, a lot of things, just miracles just happening in your life that are just unexplainable. Okay? So if you want to take this teaching deeper, I made a comprehensive video called Identity Shifting, the practice of identity shifting. All you need to do is click right here to access it. It is comprehensive. This is the method that I've taken over 1,800 clients through. And the main focus of this channel and our teaching is identity shifting, you becoming who you are meant to be. So the complete video is here because when you become who you are meant to be, you experience the things that you've always wanted to have. So click right here to access the video. Otherwise, if you'd like to work one-on-one with me for the next 12 months to take your life to the next level, all you need to do is click right here or go to realitycreator.com/apply to schedule your free one-on-one consultation call with me to see if it would be a good fit. Typically, I work with entrepreneurs, professionals who are sick and tired of hitting this glass ceiling in their careers, in their lives, in their businesses, in their income, and they want to feel more fulfilled. They want to take things to the next level. One of our clients, Juan, recently went from 1,500 euros a month to 15,000 euros a month in his business, all by shifting his identity. Okay. Another one of our clients, Bipasha, went from charging $1,200 for her services to charging $12,000. She couldn't believe it. But now she feels more convicted, more certain in her offerings, and she feels better and more aligned as a result. So all you need to do is click right here to apply for a consultation call with me. Just a heads up, my calendar fills up very, very fast. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you to seeing how I can help. Thanks.